Phil, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you. I always get jacked up to talk about health and wellness, and it's been such a huge part of my life, especially as I'm 40 now. So it seems like I have to stay in shape, or otherwise, the age is going to pile up. Uh,
Totally.
and it's a really good discussion because a lot of friends and family I talk to, a lot of coworkers, etc., they struggle a lot. Some do great and they pick it up, and they have really good diets and they're going to working out all the time. And then others I find just struggle catching on. So I'm kind of intrigued with your thoughts of why that happens. Like, why are people, let's take someone that's maybe they're adult, they have kids, they're working a full-time job. Why do they struggle when all the information's out there saying, hey, if you eat healthy, if you exercise a few times a week, you're going to feel better? Why do we still struggle with that?
Yeah, I wish I had a silver bullet answer, but I think that's such a good question because it is true. So the data, I mean, we've always known this, it's very intuitive, but the data now with podcasts and everybody, I mean, you can't look left to right without seeing Andrew Huberman or David Sinclair, or it's on Good Morning America. They're talking, we know you should be strength training. And finally, they're pushing that more than only cardio. We know that monitoring blood sugar levels and having less processed food. Like, we know all of these things, but I think it's just the classic, oh, like, yeah, that applies to everybody, but not me. For some reason, like, we feel, and I'm saying we because even myself as a fitness professional and expert, I'm like, oh yeah, like, it's not that bad. Have an extra donut or Chick-fil-A, or, it's like, okay, yes, there's some truth to balance and not being crazy, but we do know these things, but we feel like, oh, okay, until the diabetes, or I can't tell you how many clients come to me when they're turning 40 or 50 and they're like, oh, well, went for my physical and like my prostate thing says I should be worried and my cholesterol's high and my lipids are high. And then they're like, my wife says I have to get into gear, or my partner or husband, or, any combination. When people see the proof or start feeling the symptoms, they're like, ah, crap. But they've known for a decade. So I don't know why, other than just like, I think we just push things off to the last minute. In general, we're procrastinating creatures. The people who prepare, sadly, I think, are the minority, not the majority. And I wish I had a shortcut for that. But better late than never. They catch on, and I can help, and we can help ourselves. But yeah, I don't know, other than just our silly human brains. We just procrastinate until it's really late in the game.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny you mentioned that. And actually, it reminded me, I have 11-year-old, and I was talking to my son yesterday, and he brought up the strangest thing. I don't know why he started talking about this, but he talked about like eating bad food and like a lot of sugar. We're getting toward Halloween here and stuff. But he was asking, he's like, well, why do I like to eat sugar and like these bad foods when I know this other food is good? And I said, my answer to him was, well, which tastes better to you? And he's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, well, that's probably the reason. It's in the short term, this tastes better, so you go for it. But in the long term, this is better for you. And I was so proud of him that he actually brought that up, that he was kind of like realizing that. But would you say that's maybe it's the short-term win of like, ooh, this tastes good, or yeah, I'd rather watch Netflix or do something else instead of going to the gym, because that's going to be kind of hard, if you will, knowing that down the road it'll be better, but it's just one day, and then it snowballs.
I would agree with that. So my son is 10, and it's very much the same thing. Like, he knows about protein and chicken and broccoli, and he always laughs, Dad, what are you eating? But he'll go for the Takis, the spicy things. Kids love everything's like, how spicy can you make it these days? And he'll understand that concept. But yeah, I do think it's something. And the data, they're pretty clear in terms of, I think even within our lifetimes, we're similar ages, kids similar ages, like the social media and the intensity, even what's the cocoa melon, that kids thing where like they did a study and it changes scenes every 2 seconds. It's like baby crack for their brain. I think we've conditioned like 20 years of children, but even the latter half of our own lives, to where the instant dopamine hit. And yeah, so things that are ultra processed, there's not one thing in nature in real life that has close to the level of flavor, of salt, of sugar, of these fats. So yeah, it's stupid to say it doesn't taste good. It tastes delicious. I freaking love McDonald's. I always think it's silly when people, I don't like chocolate, I don't like candy. I'm like, no. You have discipline and you're telling yourself it's not healthy, but your taste buds love it. Like, don't lie. So yeah, I love that stuff. But yeah, I think the kids, they're super intuitive. They know. And if we can teach them young and teach them early, that's really our best case, in terms of moving forward, like the quicker we instill these habits. But yeah, we want the quick hit. We want the dopamine.
Yeah. Do you find that, and I guess talking about, again, the adults, they're working busy jobs, they got a lot of other stuff going on, but maybe that's the bridge they can cross is, hey, let me try to at least make some healthier foods for the family. Now I'm teaching my kids, I'm raising my kids better, but also I'm not just scarfing down McDonald's every night. I actually have some good food. I don't know. Maybe that's a bridge to start with.
I work with a ton of moms and dads and couples, and I always try and say, hey, if someone comes to me, I say, do you have a partner? Do you have kids? I try and get what I call family buy-in, because if you have a goal and you have 2 or 3 kids and a husband or wife or whatever, and they're doing the opposite of you, it's going to be so hard for you to succeed. So not only do I want them to support you in your goal and help you achieve it, but also like, let's get some buy-in, even if it's not the same level of discipline or they're not paying for the program or whatever. Okay, cook healthy meals, do things together, go on family walks, take turns walking the dog, do like have a treat night where you can do like, hey, we're gonna have whatever we want on Friday or Saturday, but Sunday through Friday, or like we'll have breakfast and lunch and we'll make dinner the fun meal, but we have to cook it. Even if you cook it at home, it's slightly better. So yeah, I do think making things a community activity. And if you don't have a partner or you don't have kids, do it with friends, have potluck dinners, like find reasons to have community and make food and exercise the activities they were meant to be. Physically, through evolution, we've always been creatures that are social creatures. When you isolate it all, like go to the gym alone with your headphones on, alone, eat your food alone, meal prep alone, do this app alone, then it's really isolating and lonely. It's also really hard because you don't have anybody helping you, and you kind of need outside accountability, right? Hey man, how you doing? Hey, can I help you with this? So yeah, I think you're onto something with that.
If we take and you could add to the stool here if you want, but I'll do a 3-legged stool of nutrition, exercise, and sleep. Obviously, they're all important, but when you're working with clients, is there one you typically start with, or is it all based on the individual?
So I think this is a great question. I do think it varies highly on the individual. And I do think those are the three. I mean, those are the three physical. If your mental health isn't there, which I would argue maybe it's part of it, but that's almost like a whole separate thing. But if we're just talking about the body, and they are interconnected, so I recognize that. But yeah, sleep, nutrition, and exercise. That's the trifecta. I do think in this modern age, many people severely undersleep, or they severely oversleep because of depression or anxiety, but in really weird bouts. Like they'll do 4 hours and then wake up for 2 hours and then they'll take a nap, and then they have caffeine and Xanax and alcohol. And it's like not actually quality sleep. So I'm really big on a sleep push for anybody over 30. For people under 30, I'm really big on the nutrition part, because I think a lot of people, especially in their 20s, they start making money, they have careers. As a teenager, whatever, you can kind of get away with anything. Not saying you should, but I can't tell you how many people I start training at 30. They still look good because their body hasn't fallen to crap and they're exercising. They know that part, but they have high cholesterol. They're on the pre-diabetic scale. They're like, whoa, what's happening? And I'm like, yeah, well, you never learn to eat well because you're skinny and ripped. You got away with murder, but right. Now you have no habits. You don't know how to cook. You don't know how to eat healthy. You're eating Cheerios for breakfast and then a Starbucks thing for lunch and then Panda Express for dinner. So I do think there's maybe this age thing. So like over 30 sleep, under 30 nutrition. And I have found most people do the best at exercise, but there are some people who that's the biggest barrier to entry. So it's really individual. I don't think any of them will succeed if you don't have all three, but I do think that I've noticed these trends by age on which one tends to kind of have bigger leverage.
Let's take, if we kind of take each of those maybe a little bit. So if we take exercise, and I look at this as like growing up a tall, lanky, skinny kid. And, one of the reasons the first rule of CrossFit, right, is you're supposed to talk about CrossFit. So I'll mention that here. The reason I've been doing that for almost 6 years is like, that was for me. So talk about like differences, I think, with people, like for me, I was like, I got to gain strength. I want to gain some muscle because I've always had this body type and I wanted to change that. Right. And other people obviously have different goals, but when we take exercise in general, when people kind of stumble out of the gate, a lot of times it might be they have too much information. So
yeah,
there's the point of like, hey, I don't have the motivation or whatever. That's one thing, but there's too much information. How do you coach them to say, this is maybe at least a first step or two to get started with exercise.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan, not to the point of, idolizing or putting on a pedestal, but that Atomic Habits book by James Clear can be a little dry, can be a little repetitive, but one of my favorite takeaways is a super easy tagline: standardize before you optimize. I think in the podcast and the pop culture zeitgeist right now, everything's like, do this for 10 minutes and then do your cold sauna, do your transcendental meditation, and do this, do this. If you add it up, there's a list of like 25 things you're supposed to do. It'll take 3 hours. Like, do you have a job? Do you have kids? Do you have a partner? You're not going to do any of it. My goal is, what's the bare minimum that's scientifically effective, that's going to induce physiological, so body and mental change, and that will also give you results. So that's 30 minutes, 3 times a week. I'm going to have somebody do 30 minutes, 3 times a week for a whole month. And if they can do that, they're going to see progress. They're going to feel better. Everything's going to change in just 1 month. Then I'm going to go up to 4 days a week of 30 minutes. Then I'm going to go up to 5 days of 30 minutes. And that's how I progress my clients. At 5 days, that's pretty much, unless you're an athlete or you're training for a bodybuilding competition or something, I don't think anyone needs more than 5 days. But if their goals are like, hey, I've lost the weight, now I want to gain muscle, or like, I want to see how far I can push it, then I stretch out those workouts 30, 45, an hour, so it's really this progressive overload, the way you weight train. I also do that with time management. Like, let's stick it into where it doesn't hurt and make it feel okay in your daily lifestyle. And then let's expand it. And then people, when they miss a day, when they have more days in a row, it's not going to be as game changing. And B, they're like, oh, wait, something's missing from my schedule. It becomes part of their day. They put it on the calendar. I have my clients schedule their own workouts just as they would a business meeting, or just as they would getting a haircut or going to the doctor. Like, if you don't make time for you, no one else will. And so that's my approach. I have found it successful. Others may have others, but I prefer just really dialing in and making it part of your life every day.
Do most of your clients, do you find they approach you with like, hey, I heard about CrossFit, I want to try that, or I really want to do running, or I want to do whatever, Pilates, yoga, whatever? Or is it more you're putting a calculated plan? If they're like, hey, I just want to gain strength or whatever, you might have a mixture. Like, how do you, because that's one of the things, again, folks I talk with, it's kind of like they pick one. Hey, I'm going to sign up for the yoga studio, so I'm only going to do yoga, right? It's hard to kind of diversify, I guess.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. And I would say just within the last 3 years, so I've been training for 17 years now. So like a really long time. And I've had a few pivots. I got my MBA, I did all these things. And the most I ever lasted was like 3 months at a real job before I went right back to training. It's my heart, it's my passion, it's what I do. But actually this shirt I fit, it's a company, they're kind of, they're separate from Peloton very much, totally different company, but if you've ever been on a NordiTrack treadmill or bike, you can go with your trainers around the world. So you can jog with me in New Zealand or in the Dominican Republic, or you can do Mount Fuji, or, any country, any place you can name. It's they just did Everest. So it's actually with a trainer in the location. It's not a green screen, and the treadmill does whatever you're doing. So if I'm jogging up a hill, the treadmill's doing the same speed and incline and auto adjust. So it's this integrated cardio system. So a lot of people online know me from that. But what's funny is I always joke, I'm like, if I weren't being paid to run, like, it's not my personal favorite method. I saw pumping iron when I was 15. My father passed away from cancer. I had leukemia as a kid. So me and my big brother, we're like, we are going to weight lift, because to us, the idea of being strong and healthy and masculinity was, we got to lift some heavy ass stuff, So for me, my preference is, I've made myself an expert in the realm of strength training. I have people come for bodybuilding, for bikini shows, for movies, for CrossFit, for everything. But most of my clients are just either everyday people or people around the globe online who are just saying, hey, I am already healthy, but I've been just doing cardio or just yoga or just Pilates. And they're now realizing, oh man, I might be in shape, but I am not strong. I can't do 10 push-ups. I can't do a chin-up. I'm coming to you for strength. So I work with people from every background, but the reason they're coming to me is to really enhance their strength training and their nutrition. And that's, but I love learning, because I've learned so much from the different, and I'll pick their brain. Hey, teach me a yoga thing, teach me a Pilates thing, teach me a core thing, and just like be the healthiest group we can.
But going back to what you mentioned before, it really, if you're not even doing anything, the 30 by 3, you just do anything. Like go walk around the block if for 30 minutes, you know.
So many people, the all or nothing binary, like flick that switch on or off, that like, oh, I don't have time, so I'm not going to do it. I don't have an hour. I can't work out. I can't do this class. If you start with 30 minutes once a week, that will actually induce change.
Yeah.
15 minutes every other day, 10 minutes, 4 days a week, like every 5 minutes. They have shown studies that as little as 5 minutes repeated every day, 5 times 7, 35. So the threshold at the beginning is, I mean, it is nothing. It gets bigger because all of a sudden your body adapts and needs more, more, more. But that excuse, we can throw that out. Like there is no barrier to entry. You can start with as little as 5 minutes a day, and that can change your life, mostly because the first changes are going to be mental. You're going to feel better. You're going to want to do more. And that's the key, is that it's this mental physical connection that people, they don't have it. If they had it, they'd already be doing it. So creating that connection, that bridge where your mind and body connect, say, oh, this feels good. I'm feeling motivated. The hormones are flowing. You get dopamine, you get endorphins, your sex hormones, testosterone goes up, growth hormone, you're aging less. Like these are actual physical things. It's not woo-woo. We can measure the difference. I can't tell you how many clients we've done blood work before and after 3 months, 6 months, like, oh, wow, like, yeah, like the numbers show I am a healthier, younger, happier person. That's amazing. That's my favorite part of the job, is seeing people just recognize the change, not just in their body, but in themselves.
No. And to underscore, you don't need to go to a gym. You could, I mean, I could jump on the floor right here and do push-ups and air squats. Like I can go walk around the block. Like we don't need to have all this equipment, like, because that could be the excuse. I think going back to Atomic Habits you mentioned, right? It's make it easy. You know, that's one of the big things, right? If your gym, I don't know if, I think he uses this in the book, right? Or someone does that, mentioned the book, but if your gym you have to drive 30 minutes to, and you have to take a shower and all this stuff, like you might not go.
Yeah.
If you're literally walking out the door, that's a lot easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. Make it as easy as possible. So I have a strength training app and programs and things. And my goal, I'm not gonna lie, my goal is always to graduate people to the gym, because it is my professional opinion that they will achieve better results quicker if their result is anything body oriented. If they simply want to feel good, be healthier, and drop a few pounds, then it can be home the whole time. But if their goals are a little, medium level or advanced, the gym will be more efficient. But I have people who I'll do a 3, 6 month, 1 year program at home. And then finally they're like, wow, I went to the gym for the first time and I didn't feel out of place and I was doing the things. And so I never want someone to feel intimidated or scared. And some people never want to go there. Just one bench or your floor or your table and a set of dumbbells. There are no excuses. I mean, I've had people do it with milk jugs, with a huge bin for moving filled up with stuff. Like we've been creative over the years with people when things have come up that have been like, oh, what, I can't train. What am I going to do? I'm like, find something heavy, put a backpack on, let's do it.
Yeah.
And you make it fun. You make it fun so it doesn't feel like a task or something arduous. It feels like you're making your body be able to be capable at living better and stronger. And it's fun to see people see that, so that everyday life doesn't feel as hard and difficult. Like, oh, I can do this. That's easy. I just, did 300 pounds on this thing, or I just picked up my baby and backpack and went on a hike for 30 minutes. I can do this,
Well, and it goes back to, I think one of your things you're big on is accountability. And you talked about, or going to the gym or going to a place, I think, can build a little more accountability. I even think about, like, maybe you join a run club or you join some sort of, league, something to get you out and active. But if people are expecting you to show up, or, you're seeing people, like, that's one of the things I love about CrossFit is the community aspect, right? It's not that people ask me if I haven't seen me in a week, oh, Brian, where have you been? But it is more the community aspect. So I think you hit both. Can you share a little bit about accountability and how that helps your clients?
Yeah. So what's funny is I have done CrossFit, but I'm not a CrossFitter. But I have one of the biggest competitions of the year just concluded yesterday, and they also had the strongman portion. And one of my friends from home in Canada won the whole thing. And the CrossFit athletes are so amazing. But I was joked that CrossFit's this double-edged sword. The community, I would argue, is second to none of any strength or gym-based sport in the world, even more than any sport. Like the first rule of CrossFit's tell people, but right. The amount of people it got from the couch to the gym is in the millions, is in the tens of millions. And so for that, I give it credit. I also give it credit for giving me a huge business, because so many people go there and don't know what they're doing. And the gym's expanded so quickly, they don't get one-on-one attention. So the people came to me. And then sometimes it's the circular thing. So I don't bag on it, but it's like, I actually think it's the synergistic symbiotic relationship to where we're all helping each other. And I've noticed it's evolved more. There's a lot more aesthetic, like shredded looking people in CrossFit. They're doing a little more bench press and stuff. It's not just all Olympic lifting. So it's kept up with the times, but the community is everything, because if you show up and you have people helping you, if you have people at your similar level, and it sounds mean to say this, but when you also see people below you, not in a negative way, but like, oh, wow, if they're here and they can barely do the bar and they're showing up, like, wow, like it's inspiring. And also it gives you a sense of, okay, like this is for everybody, because I've been there where there's people doing the RX with the 135 push press, and there's someone just with the bar with the 45. And you'll look over and someone's probably got a cute little 8-year-old kid doing it with the dummy dumbbells. And that's what it's about. It's about seeing people kick their own butts, work out hard and be healthy and push the limits. And so I think community is everything. For accountability, I try to make people text me, email me. We have a phone call. I have an online fitness group too for the people who want that option. So they have their own little community of 5 people at a time, big enough to have more than one person checking on them, but small enough to where they can actually know 5 people's name. When you get to 10 plus, people don't remember everybody, right? So yeah, I'm a huge community builder, even to introverted, kind of shy people. I think even just pairing them with a buddy is huge. I don't think we can do it alone. Or if we can, eventually you get tired or you get lonely. Like I do think even the most introverted people benefit from community. Studies support that. Even if they'll refute it to the death,
Right.
we people, we're social creatures. We're human beings. We're not meant to be alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to sidestep and talk about the nutrition side for a minute if we can, because obviously that's a big piece. You may not work out a ton, but if you do eat healthy, you can see results if you're trying to get like weight loss or what have you. Could you share anything? I mean, and obviously you're 17 plus years. Like, what have you learned about nutrition? Let's take nowadays. Obviously, it might have changed over those years, but like, what are the 2 or 3 things people should be focusing on when they're thinking about, okay, how do I shop throughout the week? How do I buy the right food? Again, yes, I know I can eat just fruit and meat and veggies and those type of things, but is there anything that you would share with them to
Yeah,
help pursue?
I think kind of as a 10,000 foot overview, the first thing that I've learned over the 17 years, I have been through, I think every single fad, even the ones from the 60s and 70s, in the last 17 years, they've all recycled. So zone diet, Atkins diet, keto, intermittent fasting, if it fits your macros. Not only do I know all of them intimately, have I studied them, wrote a book about them, I've also tried each one of them for at least 3 months, because I do think the data says one thing, but it's another thing. I want to get in that body, in that mindset. I did keto vegan, which is the friggin' hardest thing ever. And I hated it, but I did it because I wanted to know like how I feel. And I also wanted to see what the positives would be. Keto vegan was so hard. I did lose muscle mass. It was difficult to plan. It took so much time. I did notice I slept like a baby, the best I've ever slept in my life. And my digestion was amazing, but there were other negatives and I ultimately went off. So like, I do think people find these certain things and they latch onto them. If it works for you and you feel great and you're getting the results you want, that's the goal. It's your life. But then when you evangelize or proselytize and tell everyone this is the only one that works, you must do it, like the Liver King and the carnivore,
Right.
that's no. Not only does science not support this, but a lot of people are going to follow that and get less healthy and feel like crap. So the only thing that I have found is that in terms of weight loss, we unequivocally know it's calories in, calories out. If you want to lose weight, you have to burn more calories and or eat less calories than you're taking in. So there has to be a negative balance. We also know that there's a certain minimum threshold, which is pretty close to 0.8 grams per pound of body fat, all the way up to 1.5 per pound of body weight for protein, for if you want to keep muscle or build muscle. So let's say you're 100 pounds, tiny person, but easy math. If you're 100 pounds, you need between 80 and 150 grams of protein per day to maximize the benefits of muscle on your body. The more you have, the more muscle you will grow or maintain. After 1.5, it pretty much levels off. Like, yeah, you'll get like 1% more, but it's really hard to do. Most people don't like it. So yeah, carbs, fat, protein, carbs are not the enemy. You can eat carbs. Continuous glucose monitors, BS marketing to scare you. All of these things out there. You want high fiber for digestion. You want moderate to high protein based on your goals if you care about having muscle mass and being strong. If you don't, you can get away with less, but don't be like alarmed and or surprised when you don't have the body. Someone comes to me like, I want to run a marathon and I'm vegan and I want low protein, but I want to look like this bodybuilder. Antithetical. Longevity-based diet. If you want a longevity-based diet, it is the opposite of having big muscles and a six-pack. Total opposite. So I think the synthesis of what I'm saying is there are so many different roads and it's completely goal dependent. And when someone comes to me, I say, what are your 3 priorities with your body? Is it longevity? Is it anti-cancer because heart stuff runs in your family? Is it performance and muscle? And I take all that together and I explain, okay, here's what we can do. Here's what it looks like. Here's what it's going to sacrifice potentially. There's no way to guarantee the future, right? But I think we've realized it's a lot more complex, as my explanation would infer. And there is no cookie cutter. But overall, we know the simple stuff. Whole foods, shop outside the rim of the grocery store, right? Fruits, vegetables, high quality grains, high quality meats, all these things. Quality does matter. It doesn't have to be organic, but if everything you eat's out of a package or a box, you're losing lots of vitamins and minerals because everything's processed. It has less bioavailable sources from different things. So, I mean, yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but I think we've learned that there's no one size fits all, but there are certain minimum thresholds. Most supplements you also don't need if you're eating well. So it's a mixed bag, but getting nutrition is key. It is important, but I would recommend a deep dive for everybody, or at least consulting somebody. Like, get in check with your body, see what you need. I'm an advocate for blood tests, right? If your levels are all fine, if you're healthy, you don't need to spend $500 on supplements. You don't need to eat some rare super fruit that was blessed by a monk on top of a high mountain. They're trying to get your money. If you feel great, good. But if you don't, or if your blood tests say something's wrong, then let's fix it. So that's my approach to it.
I wanted to go back. You mentioned something about the continuous glucose monitors. What's
I'm just seeing them everywhere.
I don't know much about them. I've seen them, but I'm curious your thoughts. That would be helpful.
So if you see them around, like you'll see people and they get like a little patch, and it physically, like it's a little needle. It clicks into your arm or your waist and it's in your bloodstream. And what it's doing is sending data to a smartphone or an app. And all day it's showing when your glucose spikes. So anytime you eat carbs, basically it's gonna spike. But the data have basically proven the glycemic index, not that it's useless, but there was this huge fad in the 90s and early 2000s that if you spiked your insulin, so you had carbs, then you would hold more body fat and all this. And that's all been debunked because it's still, there's things that are now more important. They found out the thermic effect of food. And they found out that just because, yes, technically you're going to store a little more fat short-term, not long-term. All that to say, we don't have to get into the weeds on that, but there's this huge push that like everybody needs a continuous glucose monitor to everything, and you might be getting fatter. It's scare. The only people who need a continuous glucose monitor are people with type 1 or type 2 diabetes, because then it will help them be healthier and stay ahead of an insulin crash or a blood sugar spike or crash. And then you go into diabetic ketoacidosis and you die very quickly. For the average person, if you're checking your thing every 30 minutes and deciding what to eat, I would argue the data is going to show people are going to get eating disorders. They're going to get so much stress and anxiety for something that's totally normal. Every time you eat a carb, the monitor is going to spike through the roof. Every carbohydrate, complex or simple, breaks down into the simple sugars at some points of glucose, fructose, sucrose or something, or sugar alcohols. And then there's going to be a spike and then it's going to go down. So it's all the rage right now. People, the data, sleeping. Do you know how many clients come to me now? They're like, my sleep score was 82 and my heart rate variability and this and that. Like, they're overloading people who honestly, all they need to do is drink less alcohol, drink more water, drink less caffeine, drink more water, and sleep more. They're spending 2-3 hours a day worrying about this checklist of 1,000 things that apply to the top 1% of people who have already Olympic gold medals. Like, I don't do any of that crap. And if I don't do that, you certainly don't do that. Not from a condescending standpoint, but from the point of it, the big sleeping an extra hour will do more than NAD plus or IV drips or any supplement or peptide or hormone out there for a health standpoint. If you want to get jacked and take steroids, that's another thing. But in terms of like health and longevity and overall person, literally none of those things apply. And I'm on a tirade against that now because I have so many people who are doing none of the basics and they're doing a weird amount of all the optimizing stuff.
Yeah.
It's doing nothing. It's doing nothing.
Well, it goes back to what you mentioned with the James Clear thing, right? Standardize before we optimize, right? And well, I wore one of the sleep monitors, right, for like 6 months. I tried it, and sleep has always been something I've worked on to try to get better and improve that. But to your point, it was always like, oh, it's like I feel really good today, and it's saying I
Yeah,
shouldn't work out today, and I'm like,
exactly.
that doesn't make sense. Like maybe so, and like eventually I was just like, screw it. Like I feel good, I eat good, I work out. Like I don't need to look at this shit anymore. That
I
was my
stopped,
take on it.
I stopped using my Apple Watch and heart monitor in training because I would be like, oh, did I get my heart rate high enough? Did it come down low enough? Like, I will admit there are some people out there who maybe it's beneficial, but for myself and the majority of my clients and people in my personal life, I've only noticed that the more things we add to our lives and the more we complicate it, the less quality is actually being put into the gym, into the workout, into the nutrition. You're so busy tracking and monitoring and analyzing and spreadsheeting. No one's doing stuff. They're just thinking, stressing, anxiety. It's like do more, talk less, analyze less. Not for everything. I don't mean not at all, but I think we swung the pendulum from like caveman to super processing quantum computer level in our brains of what's necessary, and a compromise has to come back in the middle. Is where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to like it's the simple things typically. And to your point, if it's like if you're not getting good sleep, yeah, what are the basics? Maybe I'm sitting in front of my screen right before I go to bed, right? Am I staying up too late? Or am I not going to bed at the same time every night? Like all these things. I'm drinking, I'm eating too late. Like you can list 5 or 10 things. Most people don't look at those. It's like, oh, it tells me I'm not sleeping well, but they don't look at the other things for some reason. It just seems so simple to look at those, you know?
It's so true. Yeah, yeah. We want the easy answers, and it's all connected to that first question about we know better. Why don't we do better?
Yeah.
Wish I had the answer as to why. And even for my own self, there's some days like, oh man, I already know this, but why is it so hard? I know this, I do this. Why is it so hard? And I think that's just part of the human condition. It's just every day is a new opportunity to choose and do better, and it's up to us. And if we have community and accountability and support, and we also make some plans and we make some time and we schedule things, it's more likely to happen, but nothing's guaranteed. We do the best we can. If you mess up today, start tomorrow. Don't wait till New Year's. Don't wait till your birthday. Don't wait till like if you mess up today, just start tomorrow. Every day is a fresh, complete new page in the book, in my opinion.
What you mentioned supplements. I'm just curious to get your thoughts. Yeah, we don't have to take what's that guy's name? Brian Johnson that takes like 120 pills a day.
Yeah, it's absurd. So like
but what like are there one or two that most people should be taking just
yeah,
on average?
I mean, no supplements I don't think are necessary unless medically, like I said, if you go get a blood test and you're deficient in something, it will enhance your quality of life and your health to do that. But for most people, protein is a supplement, protein powder, protein bars, protein shakes. Nobody needs them, but it's a lot easier and more convenient to hit your protein goals and to get the level of protein you require, unless you're out there or you have a private chef. Like I've seen some stuff in my days, but like I don't have that. So I need a protein shake in a bar to account for 60 grams of protein a day, or I don't want to eat 3 chicken breasts or extra turkey, or on the vegan side, like more seitan or tofu or whatever. Like I'll eat everything. I'm omnivorous and I have a balance, and sometimes I'll have fast food. Like I live my life, but protein, I would say, is a staple, because if you don't have it, your likelihood of hitting your protein goals is very, very low. And if you can do your protein goals without it, kudos to you. That's not most people. Creatine monohydrate. If you're strength training or doing any sports, it is absolutely proven to be safe and effective. You'll get a little more strength, a little more endurance. And there are new studies coming out that independent of any muscle, there are actually focus and cognitive benefits. And they're doing that with older people. Also in women over 50, they're finding, hey, this is actually leading to stronger ligaments, tendons, and bone and cartilage. So less sarcopenia, less bone problems. Maybe could be something useful in perimenopause or menopause. So creatine got demonized in the 90s. It's a natural amino acid. It's not anabolic. It's not a steroid. Creatine is totally safe and fine, 5 grams a day. So those are my staples for everybody, protein and creatine. If you don't eat any seafood, some studies support omega-3. I like a high quality one that tastes crappy and like fish oil, but it's healthier. Keep it in the fridge. So those are the big 3. Pre-workouts, everyone asks about that because life is stressful. I will admit they work. They are terrible for you. They will ruin your sleep. They will make you a slave to them, and then you can't work out without them. So take that for what it's worth. Like I took pre-workouts for 14 years and it's like weaned myself off. I'm like, I can't work out without them. Now I just take an espresso shot. I love coffee, 2 cups a day max, not after two. I'm able to do everything and get sleep at the same time. Some of them are stimulant free. The jury's out on those. But yeah, I mean, really, it's just those three. And then multivitamin, athletic greens, all of those greens. In all likelihood, you're paying for expensive pee, is my joke. However, they also aren't going to hurt you. So if you get the placebo effect, or you swear you feel better, or you take it and it makes your day less stressful, you're like, got my base covered, go for it. Nothing wrong with that. So essentially, there's like 5 supplements I dance around with on a essential staple to totally fine, but maybe worthless, but it's not going to hurt you. Almost everything else is a blanket no, a case by case basis, or there's not any research supporting it, and yet somehow it still sells billions of dollars and boggles my mind. But I'm always on the latest for that. I love looking into that. There's a few new ones coming out that have some like real good coverage on Peter Attia. So I'm like always looking into that. But it's interesting. But yeah, those are the ones we know of. So those are the ones to start with. Don't worry about anything else. NAD plus, all these fancy things, these IVs. Don't worry about that for now.
Again, it goes back to that's optimizing. That's maybe a different level.
Yeah, different level. Unless you have a 6-pack, sleep 9 hours a night, you feel no stress, you can meditate and have no thoughts. You have all your protein, you can run 45 minutes without passing out and lift your own body weight and squat, bench press, and deadlift. Like, unless you can hit what is a foundational, healthy mind and body person, don't spend $1,000 on weird stuff. It won't work.
What are there certain myths that you're hearing out there? There seems like there's always like these new things that people come out with. Any you'd share that maybe open someone's ears, like, oh my God.
I mean, from a nutrition standpoint, fasting and intermittent fasting and autophagy, cell regeneration, like this is getting all the buzz right now. And not to say it doesn't work, but when all variables are held equal, intermittent fasting works no better or worse, the exact same amount as somebody doing 3 or 5 meals a day. If you equate the calories and you equate the protein, and the carbs and fats are different, but the total calorie and protein is the same, 1 meal a day, 5 meals a day, 3 meals a day, all that doesn't matter. The amount of fat and muscle loss or gain, the same. So fasting, intermittent fasting, and then autophagy, which is cell regeneration if you starve yourself. Okay, but autophagy is always happening, and it also happens overnight, and there's no studies showing any benefits long-term. And then I always joke, like, okay, if you do the longevity Sinclair diet, which turns off mTOR and it's 1 meal a day, really low protein, okay, you might live, maybe, there's no way of proving it because they haven't studied it yet, you may live 10 years longer. But if your muscle mass is so low that you fall and die from breaking your hip, or you, like, I would rather live, what does one of the guys say? I'd rather live to 90 surfing in the ocean, have a heart attack, than live to 110, but my last 30 years are in a wheelchair, right? Like, so this whole new discussion, I love it. Lifespan is how long you live, but health span is how long you live with the quality of life of doing what you want. I'm an advocate for that, for like having a healthy, strong body, having balance, not being obsessive. The amount of people who have eating disorders but don't even realize it because they haven't had like anything fun in 20 years. Life is short. Don't make it any shorter on purpose, but also don't extend it out and drag your pain and misery and like say no to every party, every person, every function, family gatherings. My standpoint for everything is about balance. So yeah, these myths, everything for me lately, at least on my feed and algorithm and all my clients, there's all these all or nothing on fasting, that you need all these weird glucose monitors, the liver king and the eating organ meat and the carnivore fad, that's huge right now. The pesticide organic thing, like that's going to be a debate forever. I don't have any affiliation. I'm not being paid by anyone. But again, if you're eating everything out of a bag, probably bad for you. If your apples and pasta are not organic because you don't want to spend $8.50 and you have family to feed, you're going to be fine. So like, I think the sensationalism of everything, but especially fitness and wellness, it's almost now $1 trillion market. So I know why everyone has to stand out and make your money and take your money. But the data support almost none of it. So that's all my cautionary tale. Like, leaving would be, even the most expert person that's selling you on something, it may not be the case, and maybe maybe do a little deeper dive or don't waste your money.
Yeah. Well, again, it goes back to, and it's always like the simplest answer is the right one. It's, as you're saying, work out 3 times a week for 30 days, start there, go around the outer rim of the grocery store, have some fruit, vegetables, some meat, whatever. If you don't eat meat, then obviously try to get your protein, and then try not to eat alcohol or drink alcohol, and maybe
eat it too. Those frozen alcohol pops.
Yeah, there you go. I'm sure you can. But try to get your quality sleep. Like, again, the simple answer here, it's not, you don't have to overcomplicate it if you don't want. And I think that's again, going back to the first question, I think there's where a lot of people struggle is they hear so much out there, and sometimes they don't go back to just the simple of like, let me just start today and let me walk around the block and let me get some good sleep. And maybe that's a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the 3-pillar, right? That stool there. So we have exercise, nutrition, and then we have sleep. And then the other thing I would add would be find one person in your life, that community, that accountability. So whether it's your partner, your best friend, your mom, whatever, find someone and tell them, this is my goal, or I want help with this. If you get somebody on your team, it's going to be so much easier. And they're like, hey, want to go for a walk with me? Or here's another example. If that person happens to not be in state or in country with you, it's a really easy way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So what I've started doing with clients, if they don't have a dog or something else, go for your 30-minute walk, call your mom, call your sister, call your girlfriend, find ways to put the exercise and the community together, even if it's not in person. One of my clients, they do the same workout, and they all 3 are in different places, and they're clients of mine online. And then they text and have like a 3-way call, video conferencing thing. Depends if it's a treadmill workout or if it's a weights workout. And they do it together, even though they're totally separate. And they've like created their own little thing. Like, thanks, Phil. And like, I didn't even suggest or have anything to do with that. And guess what? The likelihood of them all showing up is so much higher. The amount of times people are like, if I didn't have to show up for you because I wanted to please you, and also because I'm paying you, and also because I have this sense of like wanting to do a good job, I would have slept in bed. And that's another one of those human conditions. Like, I would sleep in bed for myself, but if I told someone else I'm going to be there, I want to show up. I don't want to let them down. And sometimes people pleasing can be a bad thing, but in a lot of instances in this, it's actually a really good thing in this instance, keeping us accountable because we want to help each other. And that's a good way where the peer pressure in a positive way is study supported as being a good thing.
Well, and just to underscore there, I think, and this goes back to what we talked about, maybe there's that 4th leg of the mental health. If someone doesn't show up for a couple of days, now you have that team, that accountability, those partners to say, hey, Phil, why don't you, everything all right?
Yeah, that makes such,
I think having that, because if you're alone and you're like, I can't do this, whatever, go out and again, find some accountability partners that may help you.
Yeah. I think, thank you for bringing that up. That's actually a great point. Yeah. To go check, make sure everything's okay. Sometimes things are great and they got busy and you've inspired them to get back. And sometimes things are not great and they'll be appreciative that you noticed and that you were there. So it's a win-win either way. But yeah, these are all critical points. And I wish the culmination of all of them where I could be, hey, trained by Phil. Phil tells you this one answer. There is none, but the closest you and I got today, Brian, the closest we got is we know these are the things. We know we have to do them. And the simplest way is pick one of those pillars, tell someone about it, and start right now. Finish the podcast and start right now. Figure out who your person's going to be and whether it's telling them I'm going to exercise better or eat better or focus on my sleep. And is it okay if I tell you about it? They're not going to be like, no, you suck. They're going to say, oh, that's cool. Sure, I can help you with that. And maybe they'll even be like, oh, me too. And then you've inspired someone else. And it's this pay it forward kind of health situation. So that would be my hope for everybody from their takeaway.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, this is a lot of fun, man. Anything you would add onto our conversation? Anything else you would share that'd be helpful for folks to get started?
I think in terms of getting started, the biggest thing is knowing that there's no perfect time. Literally for anything in life, there's no perfect time to get a crazy, weird disease. There's no perfect time to buy a house. There's no perfect time to get married, to have kids. And there's certainly no perfect time to start eating well and exercising when you're a consultant, you're traveling, or your wife is pregnant, or you're this or you that. Like, you're always going to be busy. And if you can't work out or find time at least 30 minutes, 3 days a week when you're busy, basically there'll never be time because you're more likely to always, you'll have 1 or 2 weeks where you have downtime, but most of the time you're going to be busy, 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 retired, dead. And that's our life. And that's a good life. Because if you're sitting there doing nothing, you're not enjoying it probably. You're not probably feeling productive and connected. So find a way to schedule it in your calendar. I'm a huge advocate for you putting yourself on your calendar. I put my workout, Phil's leg day, whatever this time. Like I write my workouts in my calendar. If I don't, I have 3 businesses, bajillions of clients online, a wife, 4 kids, like 6 animals. I have such a busy life that if I don't make time for myself, the whole world's going to eat me up. Everybody needs me. And and it's exciting. And I'm grateful to have a busy, fun, fulfilling life. But I have gone weeks or months without workouts when that's part of my identity. That's who I am. So if I forget myself, no one's there telling me, hey, so that's my advice is sit down right now, find your person, get an accountability partner, put it on the calendar, and start today to make your life better with one choice, and then just add one more, 1% every day. James Clear, that's another throwback to the Atomic Habits there. If you add 1% per day, or one little choice or one little step, it's a lot easier than trying to take it all at once tomorrow.
That's awesome, man. All right. So your website, trainedbyphil.com, what watering holes are you on social? Do you guys,
I got lucky somehow, no other Phils out there. I'm trained by Phil on everything.
Okay.
Far by far. Instagram is like where I'm at all the time. I do free question and answers. I do online training, both personal and group settings. I do anything you can name. Instagram, so Trained by Phil. And yeah, trainedbyphil.com kind of just has like my media press stuff, the cool things I've done. It's like a big portfolio situation. But yeah, I do all my own social media. So if you connect with me on Instagram, it's not AI. I love AI for certain things, but for my fitness business, I've made a 100% pledge. It will never be AI. I really believe in the personal part of personal training, the human connection. The difference is that I care and that I want to know about your journey, not a robot saying, here's some awesome stuff to eat and some exercises to do. There's no heart in that. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys there.
And you have an app out as well, right?
I do, yeah. It's called S1 Health and Wellness.
Okay.
Thanks for the shout out there. Kind of going back to what I said, my goal is to graduate people to the gym, but S1 Health and Wellness, you'll see it on my personal, we're posting about it, but basically it's really focused on beginner strength training. I noticed there's so many out there and people who've never lifted weights before or strength trained at home. They open the app up and immediately it's like some shredded 8-pack chick or some like yoked juice guy. And they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. Or it's got a barbell on day one. They're like, oh, crap. Or conversely, it's like only body weight stuff, which I would argue is not as efficient and effective. So mine is weights, but it's just saying, hey, with a pair of dumbbells and a structure and program where in every video, it's me and my female counterpart showing you and walking you through the workouts. It kind of feels like having a personal trainer, but for a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the cost. Our goal is basically making strength training at home and at the gym accessible for everybody. So yeah, S1 for step 1, healthandwellness.com.
Awesome. Phil, thank you so much. I always love talking about these topics. So this was a lot of fun. I appreciate you sharing your expertise and coming on and joining.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I hope we can keep spreading the word out there of helping people navigate their lives better.